everybody. As you know, it's the one and only Brooklyn here with Alicia Cinnamon. Yes, honey. Before, we were taping, me and her were chopping it up a little bit, getting to know each other, and she's a real cool chick. So, of course, Worldwide Entertainment TV, we have to cover her story to let everybody know what's going on, where she at now, and where she's going to be later. So you ready, girl? Because I am. Yes, honey. So the last time we spoke with you, Worldwide Entertainment TV, you were in Atlanta. Yeah. So could you tell us about the whole experience visiting the Tupac Center and Miss Goldie?
Yeah. The whole experience in Atlanta was like very welcoming. The people were very receptive to what it is that I was doing. I gave a little bit of R&B, threw in some reggae, and that was well received. Going to the Legacy Garden, the Tupac Center, was just like a really once in a lifetime experience, because being such a big Tupac fan, Goldie made me feel very welcome. She told me I was like one of the first Canadians to pass by there, so that was definitely something that, or artists from Toronto that passed by there, so that made me feel very important. And it was just nice seeing the headquarters and seeing that Worldwide Entertainment expands further than just Toronto.
Yes, honey. We're not just in Toronto. We're in Atlanta. We're in LA. We're in New York. Oh my God. The UK. We're about to take over everywhere, and I cannot wait. So how would you say that the scene is different from over here, from Toronto, compared to Atlanta?
There's a lot more unity. There's a lot more support from the local stations. There's a lot more media outlets. There's a lot. The artists, I would say, hustle harder. Like, there's less of an expectation of being a part of something, as more as like you see them going out and trying to be a part of the shows. Monday through Sunday, there's always something to do. I found, like, when you were turning on the radio in Atlanta, you would always hear like Atlanta artists, versus Toronto, you'd hear like everything else and then maybe some Drake or Weeknd or something. So it was interesting just to see that they expanded on the different variety of Atlanta artists and then sprinkled in some out-of-towners.
So would you say that in Atlanta they more focus on supporting their actual local artists opposed to Toronto?
Absolutely. I mean, it's everything that we envision Toronto to be. Like, we're so close, but we just really need that unity. I think what we're still a little bit behind is that in terms of the urban scene, like, Atlanta has already been known as a strong black community. I think we're just now getting that in Toronto in terms of the urban scene. So we are still trying to figure out like how to unite ourselves. So I think once we figure out how to do that, then maybe we'll have some hope.
Hopefully we will. I'm always about women empowerment, about empowering each other and stuff like that. So do you feel times have changed with the Me Too movement, how women have been portrayed in the past compared to how we are portrayed now?
I don't really think there's much change. I think it's the same thing, a different era. I think women are still overly sexualized. I think the sad part about it now is that we as women, we've kind of like conformed to it. So we're doing it to ourselves. Before it was men that were sexualizing us. Now it's like we're willingly conforming to it. The Me Too movement is an amazing movement, but it's unfortunate because it's being kind of taken for granted because there are some people that are using it for the wrong reasons or receiving it the wrong way. Like, you have some men that are like, oh, I can't touch women anymore because I'm going to get in trouble. And it's like, no, it's not that you can't touch women. It's just you can't touch women inappropriately. And there's a time and a place. Like, you kind of know when a woman's feeling you or not. Whereas a lot of men just kind of like take a risk and see, like, let's see if she gets mad after the fact. But it's like, no, like, ask first, or wait for the signs. Like, I feel like there's always signs there, so I don't think it's really that complicated. However, there are some women that are going to milk the Me Too movement to their advantage, and so there is that kind of weird area. But I think it's great that it's being brought to the spotlight, because especially in the industry, like, that's something that happens on a regular basis, and we do need to talk about it.
Yes, all the time. So I know that we wanted to ask you our questions, but there are certain things, certain topics that specifically that we really want to hit, and I really want you to be open, which you are, from what me and you already sat down and had a convo. You're real chill. So I need everybody to know what's really good. So this is what you need to do. Let everybody know what it is. Everything, girl. Don't leave nothing back. So we gonna start with, what are some issues you face as a black female in this industry?
I would say some of the issues that I personally face is, like, I'm in this weird space where I found, like, if it's either you're dark skin or light skin, and I'm kind of in the middle. So it's like I'm not light skinned enough to be considered exotic, but I'm not dark skinned enough to be considered like strong, empowering, like that Lauryn Hill tip. So I find when you're a black woman, like we have so many different dimensions and boxes that we're put into. It's like if you don't fit one category, you don't work over here, and if you don't fit another category, you don't work over here. And overall, our voices are like barely ever heard, and the people that are in a position to tell our story are kind of masking it. So I found, like, for myself, it was I took it upon myself to be like, okay, there's nobody that's really telling, quote unquote, the brown skin girl story. So let that be my story, where it's like, you know, we are kind of boxed in these categories where we separate ourselves. Like, we're not empowering ourselves just as black women as whole. It's like there's this colorism amongst ourselves, and then society feeds upon that. So then the industry feeds upon that. So you have like the light-skinned woman that's being played up against the dark-skinned women in the industry. And for the most part, when you see the ones that are mostly publicized on the TV, it's usually the fair-skinned women or the women that look more European, and it's been happening from the dawn of time. But however, we as black women, as soon as we get in the industry, they tell us lighten up our skin a little bit, you know, change up our hairstyles, wear the contacts or whatever. So we are now allowing ourselves to conform to it, and I just feel like we need more women that are going to say like, no, it's okay to be a strong black woman, and that's what I'm trying to do.
And I love that. I really, really love that. Before I get to the next question, I know me and you were talking about what is going on in the industry now. Like from the Lauryn Hills that we grew up with the Foxy Browns and things of that nature, we got the Cardi B's now that these young women and the Nicki Minaj's that people are looking up to. So what is something that you would say as a positive role model in your community? What would you say to young women who are coming up in the rap game that want to be artists like yourself? What would you say to them? Like, how would you what would you say to them to make them feel like, okay, you know what, I want to be the next Miss Cinnamon doing my thing? Like,
well, the first thing I would say to them is never try to be the next anybody. Always try to be the first you. Because I find like a lot of young artists, they are duplicating other sounds, other people's styles, other people's looks. And so it's easy to get on, but like staying there, like, you know, Drake is Drake because he was unique. Beyonce, Michael Jackson, all these people were at the peak because they were unique. So the first thing you need to do as somebody coming in the industry is find your own identity. Understand what it is that you want to stand for, who it is that you want to represent. If you have a particular look that works for you, ride the wave. If it's, you know, red hair, but like, you know, single braids, and that works for you, then do that. Not because everybody else is wearing straight black weave that you have to wear the straight black weave, because that uniqueness is what will stand out amongst everything else. So I think that's like the main thing, and just really staying true to yourself and trying to find other women that are in the industry that you can look up to that genuinely support you.
that's what it's always about supporting each other. So obviously this ties into the next question. How are your feelings on the lack of originality in the industry these days?
It's pretty ridiculous. Like, you could literally see people morphing into other people. It's sad because I find, like, again, it's the easy way to go out. You see something working for somebody else, so you're like, hey, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. But then it's like, okay, if this person blocks or deletes you from Instagram, what are you going to do then? Like, if you lose, as Nicki says, if you lose the blueprint, what are you going to do from there? And a lot of people are not taking that time. It's not that they're not original, they're just lazy and don't want to take the time to say, okay, let me sit down and try to work on a sound that works for me, or try to find a look that works for me, or whatever. It's just, let me see what this person is doing. Okay, it works for them, so let me jump on it. And that's Toronto. Like, it's been like this from since the industry has started in Toronto that I could think of. Like, there's very few people who are really original, and we have so much talent here that I really don't understand it. And it's not, from the outside looking in, like, people see it as well too, like, wow, that person sounds like this person, or they're trying to sound like that person, or whatever. And it's not by accident. It's like they're deliberately trying to sound like somebody else. So
Yeah, and that's what I used to find, was that a lot of artists try to sound like Americans when you guys are Canadian. Get what I mean? Like, people ask me all the time, oh, Brooklyn, how you sound? Because I grew up in Brooklyn. You get what I mean? So I have that accent, and I grew up in Toronto, so I had the best of both worlds, plus my background's Jamaican. So it's just like, you get what I mean? It's just like, when I sound the way that I sound, because I'm unique, because that's me. I don't try to mimic anybody. I try to be myself, and that's what I feel in Toronto, is everybody's trying to be American and not being their self. So how are your thoughts on the lack of unity amongst us women?
It's nothing new. I mean, we as women, we've almost never stuck together from since I can think of, and it's unfortunate. When I came in the industry, my goal was to unite as much females as possible. So I started an organization called Northern Queens, and it was basically like, whatever I'm doing, you guys are going to do it too. We're going to be like the female version of G Unit, and most of the girls were great, very supportive, but then there was always, a couple bad apples that wanted to be the front runner or the person that's doing everything, and it's like, in every group there has to be a leader and there's followers, and it's like, if you are not in a position to lead, like if you don't have the connections or you don't have the resources, then you have to learn to follow. I find the unity with women is that a lot of women are divas before they've actually got to the point of deserving to be a diva, so they have a hard time following, and I would say following other women. They're okay with following behind a man. A man can tell them to do the exact same thing that a woman's telling them to do, but because it's a woman telling them to do it, it's like, I don't want to do that. So then it becomes competition. I myself, like, there's nobody in the industry like that I see as competition, and it's not in an egotistical way. It's just that I'm so unique in that I thrive on being different. So if I see somebody where they're going this way, I'm going that way deliberately. So therefore, nobody's ever going to be competition unless you're coming in my lane. So I feel like once people look at it, like if you stay in your own lane and do your own thing, there's no competition and you can support people. But the minute you're like, okay, I like the way that girl's getting received, why don't I get love like that? That's where that jealousy and envy and sabotage comes into place, when they're not realizing, it's like, are you putting in that kind of work? And I find with women, especially in the industry, they don't really like to put in that work. It's more like people are just supposed to hand them stuff, or somebody's supposed to pass it down to them, but I don't see that drive. So I think that also further divides us. If you have a woman that's going hard and you have women that expect just to be given stuff, there's going to be a level of resentment.
That's so true, and it kind of comes with, if like what they say all the time, there's certain people that were kind of born to lead. It's not about being somebody's follower, it's about following to learn. It's not about, the word follow doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. Like, you could be following me to mimic, to see my blueprint so that you can create your own blueprint to do your own thing. So a lot of people need to understand that everybody's leaders, but there's that one person that can actually hold a conversation. And you understand what I mean? Like, how are you going to book shows if you don't know how to hold a conversation with somebody? If I know that I can speak to somebody and get us booked, why? So you've had a few moments where your creative ideas were used without consent. So how were you, like, how did you feel about somebody stealing your art, your creativity that you worked so hard for?
It's painful, and as much as people will be like, brush it off, it's no big deal. Like, when you are a creative person, you're giving birth to ideas. So it's like somebody essentially coming into the hospital, grabbing your baby and running away. It's not something that you just like get over or brush it off, because most of the stuff that I think about doing, it looks easy, but there's like a process behind it. There's so much thought process that goes into it. There's so much strategizing. So to have somebody just see me put out the end product without understanding how I got there, it never works in their favor, because you don't see the vision. You're never going to know where I'm trying to go with it. You only seen what I put out there. And so it kind of sucks, because it stifles a lot of the creative process. It makes me also, it's like, again, once I see somebody doing something, I don't want to do it anymore. So if I see somebody doing something, even if it was my idea, it's like, okay, I don't really want to do that anymore. Let me do something different. But I had to really kind of reconnect with myself and be like, I can't keep allowing people to I guess stomp on my dreams, so to speak, because of their lack of creativity. But it's very painful. I've just learned how to deal with things legally. Like, that's really what it is lawyering up, letting people know that you're not playing around. Most of the people, if they really respect their business, like, I'm a person, I would never want anybody to say I stole something from them or I copied them. So if you're a serious professional, you kind of really don't want that attached to you. So the majority of the people that are out here stealing is people that, in my opinion, won't have long-term careers, or they're not really professionals or serious artists. But it's definitely very prevalent in the Toronto scene, and I think we need to tighten up with just legality.
So how did you find out? Like, were you, like, you don't have to obviously let us know the situation, because clearly it was more than once. So how did you find out? Like, did somebody call you and say, yo, somebody that, or did you witness it for yourself? Like, did you attend an event where somebody was mimicking, or?
A little bit of everything. I mean, sometimes I'll get a phone call and be like, "Girl, did you just hear this song?" And like I'll listen to it, and it's like, "Wow, that's like my stuff." Or particular situations like just to really get real, like a studio that I went to, and there was a person, I don't even know how to explain the situation, but basically the booking agent, who also was one of the owners of the studio, pretty much paid for my masters. Like, she told them that she was my manager and paid for my masters, and for whatever reason they gave her my files and she held on to that. So when I went to go get my stuff back, it's like it was like an NWA kind of TLC moment, where it's just like it really went left field, because there are people who, it's not that they want your stuff, it's that they don't want you to get any further than where you are. So a lot of people are not just taking your stuff for the sake of having it, they just don't want you to get any further. So with this particular person, it was like, I just want to be able to have a portion of whatever it was that Alicia Cinnamon was doing, to say if I own her masters, that's big as an artist. So it's me knowing it, because they kind of slipped up and somebody in the studio kind of was like, "Wait, so-and-so paid for your stuff." And I was like, "Wait, how are they paying for my stuff when like my dealing is supposed to be with you guys?" So most of the stuff that has ever been taken from me has came back to me. Like, people will do it. They're not, I don't know if they're not bright, or maybe I'm too smart, I don't know, but I always figure it out. And there's a lot of people who, I think a lot of people do things for attention. So I think a lot of people do things like they'll tag me in stolen ideas, like, "Hey girl, I just seen your hairstyle, now I'm going to do the same hairstyle and tag you in a picture of it." So there's a lot of like people who I think do things really to get my attention and just to see how I'm going to react and to take me out of my zone. If you see this person's going this way, it's like, how do I distract them? So it's really just deciding what's worth fighting for. And in the moment, it's definitely frustrating, but when I look in the long haul, it's like, okay, they took my masters, I can go somewhere else and recreate it, because obviously you want to be able to have control, but it's the the principle of it, like, you're taking something from me, like, you want to body you for it, but it can, like, so it's really like just that, separating the professionalism and the non-professionalism. It's like, okay, let a lawyer deal with this, and whatever comes from it, like, most people are not ready for a lawsuit, so really and truly, like, they smarten up in the end.
That's, girl, the lawyer up. Everybody lawyer up. That's what you got to do. Drake does it. Exactly. Lawyer up. What are your thoughts on producers stifling artists? Since we're talking about producing and all of that, what are your thoughts on that?
I would think that's probably one of the biggest industries in the Toronto industry. Is like 90% of the producers are artists at heart. So they make beats that are really for themselves, but they either are not comfortable with performing, or they don't have the confidence to actually full out be artists. So then they'll, give an artist a track and realize, like, wait, I want to be the star. So I found, like, I've had a few projects like that where it's like, the song's finished, complete, let's get it out there, and they're holding on to it, whether it's, for like 2 years later they want to put it down, like, "Oh, I want to wait till you bust, and then I'm going to put out this track," and it's like, or we could bust with this track right now instead of waiting 2 or 3 years. And then there's also some who will literally just jump on the same beat and recreate it and try to be the star in the song. So I mean, the biggest issue is just really, again, having people understanding their strengths, the avenues that they are in, and what they want to be. If you're a producer, be a producer. If you're a producer artist, then state that. But a lot of people get inspired by other people, and that's where they end up just kind of like taking the artist's idea. So it's really having a producer, like, it's tricky, I would say, in Toronto, to having somebody that you actually trust, because there's no teams, for lack of a better word. So you have producers that are jumping to every single team, giving your sound over here to this person, to that person. So that's also another issue, where you think you have a solid project with this guy or this girl, and then they're jumping off with somebody else and giving exact same thing to someone else. So
you're crazy. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. What do you feel? Why do you feel you had to leave the city to get respect and then come back? That, you know what I mean? Like, you had to leave the city to come to get your respect that you truly deserved, and then you came back, and then all of a sudden it's like, now you guys want to give me respect after I was here grinding, doing my thing, no one knows me. Now I left, came back. How did you feel about that?
I think that's just like typical Toronto, we jump on anything after everybody else has already jumped on it. So for me, it's like I did a lot of underground stuff in the city and just built a foundation so that when I left, it's like you can still check back in my city and there's credentials. So when I released my EP, I said, I understand how the city of Toronto works. I'm going to release my EP in another country so that when I come back to Toronto, it's kind of like, well, now you guys are going to want it because somebody else already has it. That's just pretty much, unfortunately, like it's been like this for like decades. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I now understand though, like with my core fans who was riding with me before I left, like those are the ones, you know, I'll give perks to or definitely stay connected with, you know, the DJs that have been riding with me from before, give them some free dub plates, whatever the case may be, like just something to keep the core fans happy, but then also realizing who now is just jumping on that wave. I'm glad that they're recognizing the work, but it also makes me, you know, pay more attention to who's actually for Alicia Cinnamon and who's just for the wave.
Okay. So have you noticed that a lot of people that weren't jumping on your bandwagon are now jumping on your bandwagon now?
I would say there are people who knew about me, but I guess they were just, you know, there's artists that come out like every week. So I think a lot of people were just waiting to see like how long are you here to stay for. So I wouldn't say that they're jumping on it now. It's like now they're really realizing that this girl's serious. Like she left the country by herself, came back, like, and she's still doing her thing. So I think there's that. But then I noticed there are some people that were there before that are not there now. So it's more of that where it's like the more you get to the top is the more people that you're going to lose. The bigger the fan base, the less team support, whichever which way, and more haters, so to speak. So there's definitely that as well too. But for me, it's like leaving, it was for myself. Like I don't feel any different leaving or coming back. I did the exact same thing in Atlanta that I did here in Toronto. The hustle was exact same. The performances were the same. So it just, for myself, it just goes to show like no matter where I am, I'll be okay.
That's real good. What are your feelings on the male empowerment opposed to the female empowerment in the Toronto? I can't even, obviously the industry, we know that it's more male dominant than it is female, but in Toronto, what do you feel about that, the male empowerment opposed to the female empowerment?
I feel like it's a man's world, so it's always going to be like, we're always going to be like 10 steps behind the men. The unfortunate part is men play up a lot of women against each other. Most of the beef that women have is not really direct women on women beef. It's like a man saying you could be better than her, or you could do this, or women fighting over men, or whatever the case may be. So there's that where we're already missing the unity amongst females, and then you have men playing us up against each other. But then there's also that the aspects of like, you know, playing the game where if you don't give to get certain things. So there's definitely a lot of that power where it's like, you know, if you're going into a studio or you're going into a show and promoters expect you to do something to get that show, or producers expect you to do something to get that beat or whatever, there's a lot of women who will give into that. But then when you meet women that aren't about that life, you can also get yourself in a sticky situation. So it's really a tricky situation. It's like if you give in, you can be blackballed, and if you don't, you can be blackballed. So it's really just about being strong within yourself, because it is a very male dominated field. And if you are not like, it's sad to say, but if you're not really protected by a man, like it's a rough place to be in. And me being a female and just literally doing everything by myself, like I'm going toe to toe with like, you know, like some real like heavyweights sometimes, you know, doing meetings, booking myself shows and stuff, and like just really having to show them like I'm not here to, you know, sleep my way to the top or any of that stuff. Like I want to be taken as seriously as every man that's inside of this room. So it's just really, as a woman, just making sure that you don't fall into that the easy path.
Yes, women, we don't need to sleep with men to get to the top. Like, I've seen a lot of very successful women make it without doing it. Like, we're bosses in general. Like, a man cannot run a household. It's a woman that runs the household. So it's like, regardless of the situation, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. What are some issues that you run into when it comes to dealing with other female artists? Like, have you ever run into something where it's like, hey, you know, I think you're dope, I want to work with you, or something like that, and then it's just like that person kind of brushes you off, like, who are you, like, type thing? Like, how do you have to deal with that? How do you deal with that?
It's usually the other way around. Like, I got a lot of people that want to work with me for all the wrong reasons. So I'll have people that, like, yeah, like, you know, pretend to be my friends so they can, like, you know, ride my wave, or you know, just find out like the smallest little thing that they can about me so they could use that to their advantage to be like, okay, well, I have like the inside scoop, like she wears mismatched socks, so now I'm going to glorify that or make it a big deal on social media because there's something. So I find with the women, it was more or less like, just there's a lot of like, it's hard to know who to trust, because I would love to do a collaboration with another female, but songs are forever. So it's like, in 2 years from now, am I going to have beef with this girl and we can't perform the track or whatever? And that's very real. And it's more or less just like I don't know. It's like, I've never had a woman brush me off before, but I've definitely had women that have like stolen ideas from me. Definitely had women that have spread like nasty rumors about me. Definitely had women that, you know, have tried to fight me, you know, have fought me, like, you know, so, and these are, you know, I love all of them. Like, these are, I don't hold any malicious intent towards them, because when you are, I put myself in a position, like when you call yourself the Queen of the North, you expect people to come for you. So I already kind of anticipated a little bit of that rivalry or the jealousy or whatever it is that you want to call it. But it really, like, it's the game. And like I said, understanding, you know, a lot of women don't know how to do it for themselves. So when they see somebody getting all these things and they're thinking like, man, like, how could I be doing that? And that's why I was trying to work with women, where it's like, you know, if you want to learn how to be a woman that empowers herself, how's a man going to teach you that? Learn from another woman. So.
Okay, you see the part where you said that you guys fought and you chuckled? There's no chuckling. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As they say, like, I was saying it to my little cousin the other day. I'm like, yo, females, we can hold grudges for years. Yeah, no. Guys, it's like they get into arguments, they slap each other on the ass, they're back to, oh yeah, they're playing cards, they're playing ball, they're doing. Females, nah. It's like, nah, it's over.
I don't know. I have 7 brothers, so like, I learned how to be like a dude. You just kind of get over things, because it's like, I'm a spiritualist, so it's energy consuming. Like, all that energy that I'm wasting being mad at this person, like, that's what they want. So they're thriving off of that and they're feeding off of that, and it's helping them grow. So as long as I forgive you, it allows me to just do my thing. Like, that's your demon over here that you have to worry about. Like, I don't have a problem with you. You know, I'm not going out here fighting nobody. I'm not stealing nobody's ideas or nothing. Like, I should be the one that's mad, and I'm not. So when I realize when you understand why people do stuff, it's kind of hard to stay mad. Like, definitely I was mad in the moment, but like, when I look at it in the long haul, it's like, okay, I'm still doing me. You haven't stopped me. Like, that was your game, and or that was your angle. It didn't happen. So how do you feel about yourself? And, you know, exactly.
Sorry. Clearly. So how would you compare the reggae scene to the urban scene? Like which one would you, if you had a choice, if you had to go and, like, you know, when you get into the industry, they kind of try to, even though you're able to multitask, you could do reggae, you could do urban, you could do pop, but sometimes they try to put you in a box and say, okay, this is the lane we're going to go in. If you had a choice, would you go to reggae or would you go to urban?
I'd go to country, like, get out.
That's why we're in the country right now.
I mean, I'm an R&B singer at heart, so I'm always going to go back to the foundation of it. The one thing that I love about being in the urban or hip hop scene is the realness of, like, if you got beef with somebody, you say their name. Like, I found with the reggae scene or the dance hall scene, there was like a lot of like subliminals or indirects or screenshots, or, you know, like, I didn't know big people still call people on 3-ways, like, you know, recording phone conversations and stuff like that, and they more use that as fuel to have beef on somebody as opposed to like taking it out on a song. So that was the major difference for me, where it's like, I don't really know how to like beef with people in sense of like drama. Like, I'll just write about you in a song or whatever. So I found with the hip hop scene, I was able to more, like, if I get into an issue with a person, there was more of an avenue for forgiveness, because we could just duke it out on a track. Whereas, like, if I got into an issue with somebody in the dancehall scene, it was more personal, and that was like something that like they were holding forever. And being a singer, coming into the reggae world, it's like I had to be very cautious, because I didn't want to appropriate the culture. I didn't want people to be like, who is this random R&B singer that's coming out of nowhere? But so I had to understand, like, you know, okay, what are the do's and don'ts? And one of the main restrictions I found for myself was not being able to be as expressive as a female, because in Caribbean culture it's highly male dominated, especially in the reggae culture. Like there's only so many women. Like if we think there's a handful of women in hip hop, there's even less that are coming out in the reggae or dance hall scene. So like, just, you know, women can't do certain things that men do over there. Like you can't talk, look at, you know, when Ashana dropped equal rights, like certain DJs weren't playing that and it was like a big deal or whatever. Whereas you can talk about, you know, going down on a girl in R&B or hip hop, and that's normal culture. So it was just really understanding the things that I could and could not say, the position that I could and could not play. So being who I am, it would be, I'm able to express myself more in the urban world, but I'm, you know, Caribbean, so I'm always gonna love my reggae roots.
Yes, my girl, I don't see our body. Yes, all season body. Yes, tell the people that we don't do summertime body, all season body. I tell everybody all the time, that's what you need. You need to be right all season, summer, fall, winter, and spring. Don't just go and say I want to look good for summer, girl, because if your man takes off your clothes, he wants to see all season. He doesn't want to see a flop, you know. Come on, people, get your lives together. So speaking of music, girl, when's the album? When can we expect that? Have you already started videos? Like, are you coming out with a single and things like that? Like, are you gonna have a release party? Girl, I'm asking all these questions because I want to know. I was all up in Candy K's business, girl. Don't worry. So we also saw on Instagram stories that you deleted your snaps. Maybe ask why you deleted.
Which ones? Because I always be deleting stuff.
Why you delete stuff?
Because.
So yeah, shout out to Candy K. Yeah, I was all up in her business. So yeah, when can we expect this album or this your single especially?
So I did my EP July 4th of last year. So this year I'm currently working on a couple of mixtapes, some new singles. The EP that I did was 6 songs. There was a little bit of R&B, hip hop, reggae, soul, and it just gave people like a little taste of what to expect in the summertime. So now I'm currently working on my first distribution deal. I'm working on a few different projects, because just being able to drop the EP as a demo, understanding what it is that people expect from me. So now I know the strengths that I have and what people are really gravitating towards. So like this summer, like there's going to be a couple of singles, a whole bunch of videos that I'm releasing. I have to be mum on certain things, but like just expect like a more up-tempo side of Cinnamon. Before I was doing a lot of more slow jams and stuff like that. Now I was just like, you know, picking it up a little bit more. So you might get a soca track every now and then. Who knows? Like,
yes, windy ways. Yes, just in time for Care About a Girl. Yes, honey. So you know, I also do the music thing as well. And what I found was that when I go to shows, and to be honest, when I went to Calgary and I did my thing in Calgary, it was like the amount of support that I got from people in Calgary who didn't know who the hell I was compared to Toronto is different. When I try to like ask females, yo, let's get together to do music, it's like everyone's like looking at me like, okay, like, you understand what I mean? So what would you do? What would you do differently to get females, for us as a collective, to come together to make a dope ass track and basically shun all these dudes to the side for a second?
It would really take doing proper research to understand which women is actually about empowering, because a lot of women want to be empowered doesn't necessarily mean that they want to empower other people. So you have some women that are straight up in the game, like they're here to take over, they're here to like kick down any girl that's in their way. They're, you know, the ones that sing about taking people's mans and stuff, like that's them. So you gotta really listen. I listen to people's lyrical content. Like if all of your music is about taking things from people, why would I, you know, exactly. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you can't have a 1-2, but if that's your MO, then that's who you are. That's what you're going to do. You are not here for unity. You're about taking from people. Whereas if I listen to, you know, a woman's lyrics and she's talking about, you know, self-love or, you know, positive relationships and stuff like that, those are the women that you want to get on a track with for empowerment. Because again, music is forever. You don't want to have a song with people that 2-3 years from now you don't talk to you, so it's hard to push this track because there's such a negative association with it, or you never get to perform it because you guys are, you know, fighting and beefing, which is why a lot of girl groups, you don't see girl groups. There's never been a girl group in Toronto, really, that's last forever, other than like, you know, a couple of these pop groups that came from reality TV, but we've never had like a Destiny's Child or any of that stuff because it's really hard to get women to work together. So it's really like contracts would be crucial, making sure like if you want women to work together, you give everybody a contract and say this is what the project is, this is what we're doing, and keep it really business, because once you get to that personal aspect, different people's demons come out. So I think the main thing is just really making it business, solidifying that business connection first, and then getting personal, because once you have your contracts in play, it doesn't matter if you like that person, they're not going to do nothing if you have a contract. So that's like the main thing.
Fact.